exciting to get here to share a recipe with all of you. So my name is Manasvini Reina, and thank you for the introduction. Okay, so now let's get into the recipe. But one last thing that Chirag Samhita says, he says, food when consumed without thought can be poisonous, but the same food when eaten with discrimination becomes the nectar of life. So this recipe, which I'm going to prepare with you with discrimination, with the knowledge that we have been given from the ancient sages and rishis, is going to become nectar because we're doing it with discrimination, with Vedika. Okay, so what's going on here? So as you can see on your recipe sheets, we have milk and water. We also are going to be looking at some different herbs, turmeric, Jandaphylla, nutmeg, and also cardamom pods. And so all of these things are good for helping induce sleep. Okay, so this recipe is a target recipe. It's also known as kshir pak, which means literally cooked milk in Sanskrit. Okay, so as Ananta was talking about, drinking cold milk is kind of this misnomer in our culture, and we think that that's going to be good for us somehow, and then people have all these types of food allergies or different types of reactions, and it's not necessarily because of the milk itself. A big piece of it is because the milk is actually cold, and they even go into the ancient texts out of Baba Prakash, which is about 100 or 8 AD. He talks about how when you drink milk cold, it actually blocks your shrotas. So you're actually clogging yourself up. And so people always drank their milk warm. So we don't advise that. And if you make this recipe cold, then we're not responsible. All right, so first off, we'll pour, and I'm actually made the recipe a little smaller than what it says on your sheet because I wanted to be able to quickly demo it. So we're doing 1 part milk to 4 parts water. And we're going to turn the heat up. So you're probably wondering why we put the water in, right? Why would you put water in? We're putting water in because the water is going to help give us more time to add the fire to this concoction. This is alchemy here. Ayurveda teaches us how to be an alchemist. So basically, if we were just to cook the milk by itself, it would become thicker and thicker, and the water would quickly boil out and it would become more heavy. But we want to make this a light, digestible drink, especially to drink at night. And so the water is actually going to give us time to literally borrow the fire from the stove, to get all of the fire into the substance here, and also to extract from the spices, extract the properties from the spices. Okay, so let's see. I have so much I want to tell you. I'm going to miss out on some things. So let's see. Also, the longer it cooks, the more finely it gets, the more fire makes it more easily metabolized in the body, which is kind of obvious. Let's see. All right, so let's see. And a lot of people, you know, who came to Vedika, they're like, oh, no, I can't drink milk. I'm a lactose intolerant. But then after trying this recipe, they were able, again, to drink milk. And so they learned that, you know, it wasn't the milk. It was actually their digestion that was compromised. So understanding that when you don't have a high fire in your digestion, or the right amount of fire, or if it's out of balance, then you may not be able to eat things that other people can eat. However, once you get that fire in proper balance, then you can start to ingest foods that you may not have been able to before. So the first thing I'm putting in is ella, or cardamom, and I'm just crushing that. I put in about 3 pods. Cardamom is very fragrant, and it's very pleasing to the mind and pacifies pitta, which, as we learned before, those are 2 things that you want when inducing sleep. And we're going to put in a little bit of turmeric. Turmeric has a special quality. Turmeric has many, many beneficial qualities. We've all heard about it. I mean, it's like antidepressants, it's anti-cancer, they're using it for HIV now, it's like immunity building. Like the more they look about turmeric, they find out the more that it can do like everything, right? So good for the skin. It's just like this panacea of an herb. But it has a special property, a special prabha, which is a special quality when combined with milk. it basically becomes highly vata reducing, which is another thing that we want to do to induce sleep. So I'm just going to put a little bit in, and you don't want to put too much in because otherwise it will become bitter. And Hashinaji always reminds us, you know, in this American culture, it's like, oh, turmeric's good for you. Let me take 10 capsules before I go to bed because it's going to help me sleep. But it's actually going to have the opposite effect. It's going to be very drying, and it's going to get your vata up again and cause other kinds of issues potentially. But if you understand that it's a micro amount of the spice that is going to have this long-lasting effect, so every day just getting a little bit into you, then you'll start to create this momentum of being just having your vata reduced, you know, especially with this recipe that I'm showing you. Let's see. And then I'm going to talk about nutmeg. This is a very special spice. Jala phyla is the Sanskrit name. Nutmeg, I guess in ancient times and Mughal times in India, used to be more expensive than gold, believe it or not. Which is kind of interesting. And their types of foods, it's very a signature kind of spice in their foods that was very sought after. So let's see. But the spice also has a special quality called nidrakara in Sanskrit, which means a sleep inducer. So it's literally like one of the main spices in here that are going to help bring you into that state. You don't need much, you just need a little bit. It's very potent. And you also always want to grate it fresh because we really want its fragrant qualities in there. And if we were to grind it up or buy it prepackaged, it would lose those essential oil qualities and become less smelly and less potent. So you want to grate it fresh as well as store it in an airtight container out of direct sunlight and heat. So I just put a pinch in there. This is such a simple recipe, but so profound. Okay, so I think it says to reduce it, boil, reduce heat. Okay, so we're going to bring it down a little bit. The stove is kind of finicky. Okay, so as that's cooking, I'll share some other gems that I have here. Let's see. Another kind of interesting thing that I learned about nutmeg was that it's very fragrant, and if you eat it, they say in the Shastras, it'll actually perfume your bowels as well. So, so we took to translate that as it probably, if your bowels are smelling less, you have less almond toxicity in your body, so it's probably very detoxifying. So that can just be another incentive to have your nutmeg. It's a happy and gentle sleep inducer. It's safe for children and elders. It has a very short effect of only a few hours, so it's not. So it's something you want to drink, like, you know, half an hour before you go to sleep to kind of get that rolling. It's not going to last for a long period of time. Let's see, and it won't give you wild dreams. It's a healthy tamas inducer, so it's a mental relaxer. This is all about nutmeg that I'm speaking. And again, we don't want to pop pills, like I spoke of turmeric, because it's very heating, and only when cooked in milk it becomes balancing. So milk, I can talk about milk a little bit. Let's see, there's so many amazing qualities of milk. I don't even know where to start. Charak Samhita, one of our sages of Ayurveda, talks about how milk and ojas, or immunity, share the same 10 qualities. And that's amazing to have something that we can adjust that is going to be just like immunity. And not only that, but milk has a special ability. It doesn't get digested like other substances. When you intake milk, it goes straight, it bypasses many processes, or it goes very quickly. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it will basically give you immunity instantly. So it's very unique in that way. So it's sweet, it's emulsient, it's reducing pitta and pitta. It's reducing vata and pitta. Ojas instantaneously. Let's see, it's an aphrodisiac, it's a brain tonic, it heals fractures, it's a Schrota revitalizer. So why wouldn't you want to drink milk, right? Okay, so let's see. Some other cool things about milk that I was reading in the Baba Prakash, which is this amazing ancient text from 8 AD. is that milk, they say milk from a cow with a calf, if you were to milk that cow right away, it is trigdoshic. So if you drink it, it's like even more balanced, which is kind of interesting to think about. Let's see. They say because of the impact of the moon and lack of exercise, milk milked early in the early morning hours of the day is heavier and more cooling. But milked in the evening hours, it becomes light to digest. With the impact of the sun and exercise and exposure to air, it becomes lighter to digest. So it's just very common sense. So if you wanted a lighter, more easily digested milk, you would wait until the later part of the day to milk your cow and drink your milk, which is just such a beautiful way to relate to nature and to the cow and to all of it, right? Sorry, I'm stumbling over some of my words up here. There's so much information. It's just so exciting to share. So let's see. And then another thing about milk too is this is cooking is like Baba Prakash also talks about the best time to drink it is at night, as we are also promoting, because during the day we may have eaten a lot of irritating foods and our doshas may be out of balance. So at the end of the day, it's very just like pacifying to all of the doshas. Let's see. So Ananta was talking about cow share, and I kind of wanted to go into that too, because we are using organic milk here. We promote organic milk, we promote raw milk, and we promote milk that has not been pasteurized or homogenized. Let's see. None of the milk was homogenized actually until a few hundred years ago. Let's see. Actually pasteurized. Louis Pasteur, he was a Frenchman. He invented pasteurization because there was some bacteria that was in the milk. But before, like 150 years ago, like the whole world was drinking milk that hadn't been heated. You know, and everyone was okay. It wasn't like milk was dangerous to eat. So it's a new practice. And it really kills kind of a lot of the life in the milk by the heating process. So if you can find milk that hasn't been heated, that's not pasteurized, that's more ideal. And of course, organic milk, and then the homogenized milk, also if you can find it non-homogenized. What that is it makes it so the cream doesn't separate from the rest of the milk, because they're getting milk from lots of different cows and lots of different dairies, and they want to keep it all consistent. And so that process makes it uniform. But actually what it does is it turns it into a very processed product, which is more difficult to digest. So as Ananta was talking about the cow shares, it's such this beautiful thing. So what it is that maybe 7 families will buy into a cow, and then they will share the milk that comes from that cow on a weekly basis. So depending on how much milk the cow gives each week is how many families it can support. So and then that money goes towards the food and paying the farmer and, you know, the rent for the cow and the barn or whatever it is. And so it's just a really great thing. There is a place in Berkeley where you can apply for a cow share. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but Freestone Park. Yeah. So there's that. So those are some things on milk. So yes to organic, yes to raw, yes to grass-fed happy cows.
Maybe any questions they may have?
Okay. Any questions?
And whole milk.
And whole milk, yes.
Yeah, do you have like a temperature? I mean, do you actually check the temperature? Do you monitor the temperature or anything like that?
No, you just kind of let it, you want to bring it down. You don't want to, if you boil it too high, it's going to boil over. And so you kind of want to get to a place where it's just simmering, so it's not going to boil over. And so that's kind of how it works. So you know if it's too high, it's like going everywhere. Yeah. And if it's too low, it's not really bubbling or evaporating.
Let's say about cooking it down to a certain.
Yeah, so we're bringing it down. Thank you, everyone. I'm getting so caught up in all this poetry here. So cooking it down, we're bringing it, you know, from 4 parts back down to 1 part. So that's our goal here. So I'm going to test it in a minute. I have this. We'll test it back down to half cup. So anything else?
Yeah, typically when we simmer down to 41, that's about 20 minutes or possible.
Yeah, I would say for 1 cup, it would probably take about 20 minutes. I could see it taking about like that. Yeah.
I have 2 questions for you. So I'm really enjoying this. One is for people who might not have easy access to cow share. What do you recommend?
I was actually looking for raw milk in the store the other day, but I wasn't able to find it, so I know it kind of comes and goes. It's not a common thing on the market unless you went to a farmer's market. However, at Whole Foods right now, I am buying this milk that is, it's not raw milk, so it's pasteurized, but it is grass-fed, it's organic, and it's non-homogenized, so the cream is kind of floating at the top. So that's kind of the best that I can find so far without going for a cow share, which I haven't myself invested in, which I would like to in the future. So.
I was going to say Strauss and Organic Valley are two really good types of milk that you can find pretty easily in stores.
How about Jersey cow? Is Jersey cow okay? That's raw and organic?
Yeah, Jersey cows are excellent milking cows. Yeah.
Can you substitute ground black hardened seed for the crushing hardened?
No, it has very different qualities. Yeah.
What are the contraindications for this? So, for example, I'm thinking about cancer patients. That's an area I specialize in. So usually we tell cancer patients not to have anything where there could be any possible bacteria or immune compromise.
Well, that's the thing, because you're wondering about like the raw milk.
Yeah.
So you always boil milk. So after if you were to milk your milk from a cow and it was raw, or you would buy it raw, then you always want to boil it before you drink it. So that's just something really important to know, because then you're doing the pasteurization yourself.
Right. So it's safe after
it's
that.
Safe.
For anything.
Yeah.
And the spices themselves will take care of that as well. Turmeric especially.
And also if there is any disease, and if there is such a question, this is for Nidra sleep. But if you have a personal question, we have a free clinic for you. Sign up, meet a consultant, and get customized care.
Okay, good. Thank you, Dr. Chubis.
Let's go a little bit longer.
Yeah, one more question. So approximately how much time does it take to go back from 4 parts to 1 part?
Well, I think I've been talking for about, well, actually, this recipe is 1/4 cup of milk to 1 cup water. It depends on how much you're making. So we're bringing this back down to a 1/4 cup. So it's a little less than maybe you would want to drink before you went to sleep. I would say give yourself 20 to 30 minutes and just kind of experiment with it.
If I'm standing in front of my stove and I'm stirring it, I can have pretty high heat. And then it gets done quickly. If I'm walking around doing other chores and I have it on low heat, it's going to take me a while. The point is you have to evaporate, so how much heat can you control? So for higher heat, I have to stand there and churn, keep moving it so that it doesn't burn.
So do you want to kind of keep the heat low then? I mean, is that ideal? Wouldn't it be more ideal as far as preserving the nutritional stuff and everything to keep the heat more low?
That's not the principle here. The principle is adding heat to evaporate water.
Okay.
So currently you are not burning the milk, you're only evaporating the water. And you're giving it extra time. I wouldn't say high heat, I would say medium high is the ideal.
Yeah, just so that it's not over boiling, but you want it to be
Keep
evaporating and simmering and getting that fire quality into the milk to make it more digestible.
I mean, give 30 minutes to cook your medicine, okay, people? That 30 minutes, you assign to yourself, will do more magic than anything else. This is not rushed students or whatever. Right.
So you make it fresh every day?
Make it fresh every day, and you will never get phlegm and allergies.
Also, if you use a pan like this, which is more open or wider area, then it's easier to evaporate the water versus using a deep pot. And speaking of time,
that's interesting.
You always put your good intentions in it. Rash product will only give you rash results.
So I'm going to test this and see if we've gotten back down to our original amount. Looks like we're still a little bit over, so I'm going to keep letting it cook.
A sample. She's making.
Sugars. Is there sugar?
Okay, so the one that on your recipe, there's no sugar on it, but we are giving you a recipe with sugar in it. We're still in the winter season, so it's still okay to drink sugar. We always tweak our recipes seasonally at Vedika and this tradition of cooking. And so for this, because we're moving into the spring season, you're kind of on the edge of when you're going to want to back off of sugar and lighten up. So that's why we're presenting this recipe today without sugar. If you keep coming back and learning more information here at Vedika, you'll start to understand the ins and outs of why we made those choices.
I had had a cold a little while back, and I looked for Ayurvedic recipes, and they recommended warming milk with honey. Is that, would you put honey in this? Or?
No, we actually don't. We promote honey. Honey is a wonderful medicine and food. But warming honey, the honey actually becomes toxic. So we never warm our honey. Okay. So in any recipes that calls for honey to be cooked, you might want to think twice about that.
Okay.
Is there any other questions? How is it tasting?
It's very good.
Yes, it's very nice with the sugar. It is, as Ananta said, it's like a sweet treat, you know, right before you go to bed. So you can imagine, I always think of when I'm drinking my spiced milk, like what it must have been like when I was with my mom, being breastfed as a child, and that would put us to sleep. So this is kind of that same idea of like getting this nectar, you know, from this medicinal preparation, this nectar from the earth of just calming us down and holding us, you know, this natural remedy of milk. Okay, well, great. So this is almost done, and I just want to thank everybody. It was my pleasure, and thank you. So.